So, Kenny, I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you get your ears lowered?
What?
Did you get your ears lowered?
My ears?
Like, there's something different about you. I think you got your ears lowered.
I didn't know. I didn't know lowering ears. Girl, you think I got plastic surgery over the weekend?
Shout out to my 8th grade math teacher for that joke. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Pioneer Careers podcast. I'm Natalea Hillen.
And I am Kenny Anderson, where we bring casual career topics into everyday conversations.
So, Kenny, how has your week been? We're just getting started.
We're just getting started. It's Monday, and I'm actually looking at you, looking at me. Oop, got a little fuzzy. We both have red on.
We didn't even plan this.
It's like maroon season, fall vibes, maroon and burgundy, or maroon and mustard. Because mustard, this is burgundy and maroon.
It's such a cute fall color.
I know.
I didn't even know what I was wearing until this morning.
I woke up this morning. I had the windows open. I felt the crisp fall air, which is happening in 4 days. 4 days for autumn. And I said, it's vest weather. I got to do it. Got to pull it out. And yeah, tis the season, right?
Yeah. Tis the season of fall. I love fall. It's my favorite season.
It really is. It's like the perfect vibes for cabins, lodging, early crisp morning air, the fall. Oh,
all the activities.
Pumpkin spice lattes.
And I'm obsessed with pumpkin spice lattes. I've been getting one like every day since they come out. I literally got one on the first day.
Are you ready for today's topic?
I am. What is today's topic? Can we tell our audience?
I think so. I think, one thing that people tend to forget about, or it's kind of like scary to talk about, is goal setting, right? Because you have to set goals. It's kind of like a part of everyday life. Sometimes we do it without even recognizing that we're doing it. It's kind of just subconscious and we just do it. But for those big monumental goals, whether it's long-term, short-term, it's just one of those things where sometimes you have to sit down and think about it. It's scary to do because you have to think about into the future and you kind of just want to live in the now. But, it's goal setting today.
I'm excited. I love goal setting. I mean, I've been goal setting since I was a young one. I'm kidding. Back in high school, just I guess for certain classes we would do a little bit of goal, like our business classes. We would do a little bit of goal setting, just short term, long term. I mean, at that age, I don't know how much you're really thinking of. Like, you don't even know what you want to do. Yeah. Like sophomore year of high school, I really had no idea. But still, like, I think goal setting is really important no matter what age you are, even if you're like super young, up to now in college and beyond.
Yeah, and you already mentioned a few types of goal setting or some types of goals that you could do. So there's long-term and short-term, but do you know what SMART goals are?
I don't know what SMART goals are.
You don't know?
The actual definition of it. I have an idea of what it could be, but...
So according to, there's many articles about, SMART goals and what the acronym stands for, but this one is from Eastern Washington University. And SMART stands for, so the S stands for specific. So specific, highly detailed statement of what you want to accomplish. So you use who, what, where, and how. For the M, it's measurable. So you want to make sure the goal that you're setting is measurable. So how will you demonstrate and evaluate, how your goal has been met? Because how are you going to know you met your goal? The A is attainable. Some people say achievable. But basically, your goal can be achieved by your own hard work and dedication, and make sure your goals are within your ability. So you don't want to make it unrealistic. What do you think an attainable goal would be to be?
One of my goals is to cut down 4 seconds of 400 hurdles this year.
I like that one.
Which is a lot, but I know I can do it.
I think you can do it too. So how will you measure that? Obviously by time, right? How close are you to achieving that?
I'm 4 seconds off of it right now, so I have a 1:04. So I just have to cut. I want to get to a minute before the end of the season.
So keep that goal in mind. I'm going to go along with the SMART goals, okay? So the R in SMART, it's relevant. So how do your goals align with your objectives? So I think yours is relevant. You're in track, and you kind of want to, take time off of your hurdles. And then the last one for T is time-based. Some of them say time-bound. It's the same thing. So set one or more target dates. So basically the when of when you want to achieve that goal. So what is your target date?
I would say by probably April of 2024, like beginning of April 2024, like our last couple meets, I would like to get around that time.
So audience, you hear that? Let's keep Natalea, accountable. And by April of 2024, we'll see if she could shave 4 seconds.
We'll see. I'm excited.
So this is just like I guess, a baseline of how you can really think about your goals if you really want to be serious about it, and actually make sure that your goals are realistic, they're achievable, they're relevant to what you want to do and what basically you want out of life, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. What are some goals that you have?
Oh,
And then it could be either short term or long term. I would say in the next couple years would be like mid long term.
ooh, this is a good one because I feel like my goals are just constantly changing, especially with the world that we live in right now. Especially like with my profession, I started this position in 2020 right before COVID, and then COVID happened, and my position moved completely remote. So I had goals then where I wanted to, reach employers and students in a virtual setting, try to engage students that way, and start thinking about career readiness in a more, I don't want to say informal way, but they get excited about it.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of, I don't want to say post COVID, but we're in that era, Taylor Swift, in that era where we're kind of coming out of the pandemic a little bit. And it's really back to in-person events, which is what my role is kind of, tailored to do. And one of my goals is, well, one, just to get through the semester. If I'm just thinking long-term or even short-term, however you want to classify it, is just to get through the semester because our office, the Career Readiness Center, has 5 career expos planned for this semester. We have workshops planned. We have career employer tables happening at Point Perk. So we have a lot going on. And one of my goals is to really hone in on that time management and to see how I can kind of, manage this workload, this increased workload that I'm not used to before, but it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what goals should be set to do, is to really challenge you and to challenge either your bandwidth, your comfortability, just to get out of your, we always talk about comfort zones, we just have to get out of our comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, I think something important that you said is that you kind of explained, like, at the beginning, you had a certain amount of goals, and then COVID hit, and then they changed.
Yep.
And I think it's okay to point out that if you have a goal one day and the next week or the next couple months you realize maybe that's not even what you want and you kind of want to go a different direction, you can set a new list of goals. So I think that's a great example of that your goals can change, even if you have one goal or 2 goals that you have been wanting for years, or it can always change. That change is the only constant.
I completely agree. Another article I found by Etiquette, Personality Development, and Self-Confidence. They kind of talk about time management, leadership skills, and goal setting. I think it's important to kind of discuss, the importance of goal setting because students, anyone who's listening right now, they might not really understand why it's important to goal set. Or to set goals. So they say goal setting can help or assist in overcoming procrastination.
Oh, you're talking to a big procrastinator.
I was the same way in college. Like whether it was studying for a test or homework or papers, a 10-page paper that I would do the night before or the morning of. I think goal setting and really planning out those things would have helped me. Talk about your procrastination, because I'm sure a lot of students who are listening right now can relate to the procrastination aspect.
So the weirdest thing is I procrastinate, but I'm like a planner with it. So if there's absolutely something I need to get done 3 days before because I don't have any time to do it those other nights, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I save enough time to get all my assignments done in a good quality manner. So I think it's just, you have to kind of take a look at yourself and see what works for you. I mean, yeah, I procrastinate, but I get everything done. I turn everything in.
Planned procrastination.
I literally, that's what it's called. A planned procrastinator is what I am. Because I like getting everything done still, but,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Another thing they say is, measure your progress. Goal setting measures your progress. We as humans, I've found, we like to feel successful. Even if it's just small goals, big goals, whatever it is. If we achieve just one little thing, we feel so good about ourselves. It's that, what is it? The positive reinforcement. I couldn't think of the word. Positive reinforcement. We thrive off of that, or any type of reinforcement. And that's kind of what goals do. They reinforce. And if we achieve it, you just want to keep going and going, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Even like the littlest thing, like for the day, if you have a to-do list of goals that you want to get done, even just checking off a simple sending an email is like, that's awesome because you got that off your plate. You got that done. You can move on to the next thing and kind of just keep trucking through.
And then another thing, and we'll just leave it at this one, is goal setting can possibly, this could be, this can be a little, I don't want to say too much or like over dramatic, but it leads to a stress-free life. What do you think about that one?
A goal setting leads to a stress-free life.
Yeah, it says a clear goal and then something word. It's a big word. Game plan can make your existence more organized. So kind of, I guess, having that organized lifestyle can kind of alleviate some of the stress.
I could see that 100%.
I could see that too.
100%. I mean, if you have, like, obviously there's only so much that you can control out of your, your life. Like, you only can control yourself. So the goal setting is something that you have control over. Like, what you write down, what you have in mind for yourself is something you can control. Obviously, you can't control outside factors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely see like goal setting being a stress relief in the future and like even in the present.
Yeah. So one question for you. And it's kind of about this podcast.
Ooh.
What is your goal as a student and a co-host for this podcast?
That's a really good question. I would say my number one goal is to grow every single episode.
Yeah.
Like, just keep getting better at articulating my words, having a conversation, asking questions. I think the number one thing is I just always want to be myself.
Yeah.
I never want to be anyone I'm not. And that's why I really do love this podcast, because we
I
get to
do
be
too.
ourselves and I get to talk about things I'm passionate about.
I came in the studio today and I was so excited. I mean, I got here like a few hours earlier. I was like, I want to record right now,
I know.
now.
I was running around like a crazy woman today, but I love it all.
Yes.
Love it. Networking. I mean, it's important.
That might be a little tidbit into our next episode, networking and professionalism.
I'm excited.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready to introduce our next guest?
I'm ready. We have Nick
Konopka, senior broadcast major. I'm not saying audio.
Broadcast production and media management and a political science minor.
But wait,
A
there's
3.9
more.
GPA. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's what we got.
I do not know what it is.
That's what's
I made that up.
So what's going on, Nick?
I'm producing the Pioneer Careers podcast.
No way.
Yeah, it's a really
Freaking
great show.
way.
I think you guys should tell your friends about it if you're already watching.
I think you should.
But no, I'm having a great time doing this podcast, and I'm excited to be on.
Oh, we're excited to
Welcome.
have you.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I'm so excited.
This is fun.
So this topic that we're talking about today is goals, and I know you're graduating soon. You're graduating this December.
I know,
How does that feel?
Scary. Anytime someone asks, I'm just like, scary.
That's my response too.
Yeah.
Even though you got less time than me.
I know. Oh, gosh.
So with that, I know you're probably thinking about it a lot. You have a lot coming up, maybe, post-graduation job, post-graduation school, whatever it may be. And with that, you might have some goals, that you might be
Yeah.
thinking of. Maybe talk about them a little bit.
Sure. I mean, specifically in terms of goals, I think it's get a job.
Yeah.
But specifically, I think something I want to look for in my jobs is like producing or associate producing for perhaps a like national news network, something like that. Because I'm really into production. I have a lot of experience with it, and I think it's just kind of where I want to go. Like, I really like politics, so I think I want to do something that involves news, TV, politics, perhaps at a national level.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect for you.
And I think that's kind of just what I'm looking towards, but the short term is just like scrolling through LinkedIn every day and looking and seeing what's available. Because that's the thing, like, there's certain things that I want, and like a couple months ago I'd be like looking at LinkedIn and I'd see like, oh, that's the perfect job for me, like I'm qualified, it's like not like looking for so many years of like experience that I don't have, it's like perfect for me and it's what I want to do, but it's July, it's August, and I can't really apply to it yet. So I'm just kind of hoping that something I'm not just like sitting on my hands waiting for something to come up, but I think I'm just keeping an eye out and looking for things and saving things and just looking for cultivating some things of what I want, because I feel like the jobs I often see on LinkedIn, at least, they come up pretty often.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you had a little internship last year, and goal setting. Obviously, you probably had goals before, getting your internship. What were some of your goals before getting that internship?
Frankly, it was, a lot of people say that like it's never good to think about like someone's path as like linear, where like they got the one thing and it led to the next thing and it led to the next thing. But honestly, that's kind of how that happened, because I applied to it actually starts like that spring semester. I was applying to WESA, which is the NPR station in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in my career prep class, and we had to make a cover letter. So I figured, hey, I have to make a cover letter. I might as well make it for the job or for the internship I'm applying for. Yeah,
killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I love to do.
That's why career prep here at Point Park is very good.
It's
That
true.
is the
That's
best.
something we can get into later, of just like, doubling up and killing two birds with one stone with your work. But for that specifically, I realized like my freshman year or like that semester and stuff that I'm going to be graduating a year early. Like somehow it happened because of AP classes, because of whatever, like 18 credit semester freshman year, something like that. But so I was like, I need to find an internship like this semester because I'm going to be a year behind.
Yeah.
So I wrote that cover letter, and then they didn't get back to me for like until like May, like, or at the end of April. And I was like, okay, I guess I didn't get it or anything. And I was gonna do an internship with Next Pittsburgh. And then WESA finally got back to me. So I had to and they like gave me the internship, we interviewed and everything. And I kind of had to make that decision of like, like I want to do WESA more. I want to do NPR more. To make a long story short, I went from WESA. I was working there, and my internship was at Meet the Press with NBC. And I was just really into the show for the last couple months or prior to that. And I figured, I know people that interned with NBC, and it's like a good program. So I thought, hey, I'll apply. A lot of the stuff is remote because it was like 2021, 2022. The pandemic was still, there's a lot of remote stuff going on. So I applied, and I happened to mention at my internship, hey, oh yeah, I applied. Or maybe one of my producers asked me like, oh, are you looking for other internships? And I said, yeah, I applied to NBC for Meet the Press. And she was like, oh, one of our previous interns works there and interned there. So she was able to give me her number, and I talked to her. And, that might have probably bumped me up in the interview process. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up getting that internship.
That's amazing.
So last fall, I was in D.C. working on Meet the Press as an intern, and it was a lot of fun, especially because I'm a big fan of the show.
So what would you say for someone that wants to get an internship, what type of goals would you have for like on a list?
On a list? Well, I'd say just doing your homework is something that's very important for an internship. So like something like that, I already knew a lot of the show, but I still like watched episodes critically, watched them closer, tried to, get in the heads of the producers. So like the research is important. And I think going into that first NPR WESA internship, like a misconception I had, I guess, is that it was kind of like, I don't know, a chicken and the egg situation, I guess, because I was applying for things that I was interested in. So I figured that everyone was applying for things they were interested in and that they knew everything about the shows and things like that. So when I was applying to WESA and doing that interview, I assumed that like I should know everything about this show. And then like I realized once I was there and like we were just talking about stuff, like about the interns that were coming in next, like you're not supposed to know everything about everything you're applying to, but it just does good to do the research, and you don't have to act like this is your favorite thing and you love it, but like do the research, understand what it is they're doing, because they don't want to have to like explain to you what the operation is, I think. So that's like, do your research, look for something you're interested in, and just look early, like cultivate a list, because sometimes those deadlines for internships, sometimes they'll close the applications in like February, sometimes they'll close them in April.
They'll sneak up on you.
It's all over the place, so you really have to check. And the summer is a lot more flexible, so that's something to look at.
Yeah, and there's some times where goals can change, right? So could you speak about that a little bit? Maybe your time here at Point Park, or maybe even like looking towards the future, or like looking post-grad. Maybe you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll do a job at this, get a job here or whatever. Could you just speak about that a little bit, how your goals might have changed since you started here and where you are now?
Yeah. When I came into Point Park, I honestly I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I think my general goal was perhaps to be on camera, to like just kind of create things. I was really interested in like TV, but not like broadcast TV. I was interested in like narrative TV, and to an extent I still am. I'm like really into that stuff, and I always watch like behind the scenes for like TV shows and movies. So maybe that could be like a long-term goal of mine, but I think initially that was more what I wanted to go into, but it just so happened that all the opportunities I was getting, all the work that I was, had in my portfolio was more relevant to the production side, and I started to become more competent in that. So it's not that I was just like going with the flow and being like, oh, I guess I'll change my goal because like this is what I have on my plate, this is what I have in my toolbox. But it was more of just realizing where my strengths were. Because going into Point Park and production and everything, I didn't like the word journalist was like a dirty word to me or something. Like I didn't like, we were all like doing this stuff and like the professors were like talking about like in your career as a journalist and so. And it wasn't until like Meet the Press and stuff like that I realized that like what I'm doing is journalism. Like I think I just never like thought of journalism as something I was interested in, and I wanted to be like in production or TV, but like I just didn't realize that like that's journalism. You guys, you're interviewing people, you're producing things, you're getting the story, things like that. Whether it's a news package, whether it's a long form piece on 60 Minutes, like it's journalism. And I think now I'm more comfortable calling myself like a journalist or a producer.
Going back to you saying, talking about the research into going into things, I think that's a great thing to kind of say because, like you said, you can kind of see if someone's kind of interested in something or if they're not. Mm-hmm. But having that backbone of that research going into something that you're interested in is just the cherry on top.
Yeah.
And goal setting as well. Like you can have a list of stuff, but if you're not doing your research on these specific goals, then what do you have? Like, what are you going to, lean back on?
Mm-hmm. And you put in the work. Goal setting takes a lot of work, which I think some people aren't really comfortable with doing, or even, they don't have that mindset yet. Mm-hmm. And I think you have really shown that you had the mindset for that kind of goals that you really wanted to achieve. Yeah, you still have some that you want to achieve. There's still some on your plate, but that's life, I feel. Mm-hmm. Like you still have time, you're about to graduate. Like you don't have to have everything figured out right now.
Yeah. And I think like something I touched on earlier is like if you like early on in school, I didn't particularly know what I wanted to do. I knew I really liked politics and stuff like that. But I think something good to do if you're not sure what you want to do is when you have assignments in class like that aren't like a paper or something like that, like especially in broadcasting in our field, communications, like you'll get a project where it's like make a PSA or make a video. You have to kind of multitask. So since you have to do it, make sure to do it well so it's something good enough that you can put on your portfolio. Because like even if you don't know what to do, at least you like have something, and like if you're not going out of your way to do extra stuff, at least you have the stuff that like you have to do because it's class. Mm-hmm. So like if you're not sure, that's a good tactic to do.
Speaking of like portfolios and stuff, I know you do UView. Obviously, we do UView together. What was one of your goals kind of going into UView? Because the goal of UView obviously is to get stuff for your portfolio, for your reel, get the experience, meet people, work with others, collaborate. What was like kind of some of your goals going into UView as a freshman and now as a senior?
Mm-hmm. I think going in, I was, like I said, I wasn't really sure. Like I was almost, I don't want to say on autopilot, but I was going into it because I figured, okay, this is the thing to do. I'm in school for broadcasting. I did like TV stuff in high school, like the morning announcements, and this is like the next step of that. Yeah. So that was just kind of what I did, and then I figured I'd do what, like I did focus more on camera stuff. But I didn't really have any goals per se. But now that I'm like not just, a freshman and like volunteering for stuff, and I'm actually like a producer of a show, I'm on the news team, I've seen UView for the past 3 or 4 years, and I want to, along with like other people on the news team, and I'm sure you do too, want to constantly improve it. Yeah. Because when you're a freshman, you just kind of accept what is thrown at you, and you're like, is this what things are? Is this like how things have always been?
Just go with the flow.
Yeah, exactly. The windy winds.
Go through the windy winds. So true.
Yeah. So as a freshman, you kind of just take things as they come. But now with like the hindsight, and you kind of, now that I understand the ins and outs of UView, and I'm sure you do, is like you have these same goals of like you just want to make it better. You want to, I want it to serve the people who are doing it. Like definitely like the freshmen and sophomores, juniors. I want to make sure they have good stuff for their reels, because that may have not have been a goal of mine to like make a reel and be on camera and stuff like that. But that's a lot of the people's goals that are doing it now. So I want to help facilitate that and help them make more news packages and help them, get more footage of them out there doing like real journalism.
And you make a great point. Some people might have their own goals, but I think also people tend to forget that you are part of other people's goals as well.
Yes.
So it's all about collaboration, teamwork, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
As being a producer for the Pioneer Careers podcast,
Yes.
this is part of your practicum for the School of Comm.
Yes.
And it's required, right?
The class is required. Yep.
I asked Natalea this earlier. What is your goal? I mean, you kind of touched upon it for UView, and this is kind of something different because this is the first version of Pioneer Careers podcast where UView has been established and has been around. What is your goal for the Pioneer Careers podcast as a producer?
I think like there's two tracks to that. There's like my selfish goals, and then there's my goals for the show itself, which do overlap in some aspects. Going into the practicum, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and like I thought people were like taking things up. Like, Natalea, I heard that you were doing this like a podcast through like the Career Center, and I saw that on like the list of practicum, and I was like, oh, so Natalea already took it. Like I was like, oh, so like people are already taking these. I better hurry up. Like, I think that's another thing. I just kind of always feel like there's like a fire under me, or like that, like, oh gosh, I better like quick now, and that kind of keeps me motivated. Maybe that should be checked out. I don't know. But so I was looking at the practicums, and I was also looking at like the people around me. Like there were people who had internships at news stations. There were people who had internships at newspapers and things like that. And, with the internships I had, I'm very grateful. They were very educational. But I feel like I always wanted to get like a deliverable out of them, something that I can put into my portfolio.
Yeah.
And there wasn't necessarily for the NPR, for WESA, there were some things like that. Meet the Press less so, because they're not just gonna let a college student make something for this national program. So I just felt like my portfolio was lacking things that I created and helped create that like were worthwhile, that weren't just like school projects and things like that. So I wanted to like beef up my portfolio with like actual things.
That was one of your goals.
That was one of my goals.
Wow.
So I saw that this was an opportunity. I thought you already took it, but I was like, well, it's still up on the spreadsheet, so I'll just email them, and like if they say no, then like that's the thing. Sending that first email, I hate sending emails.
Yeah.
But like sending that first email, like I always like proofread it 10,000 times, but you just have to like go.
I'm the same way.
Like
I'm the same
and
way
sometimes you have to
too.
think that like these people, like you, like
These people.
like an adult working in the field or doing something like that, they're just like, this is their day-to-day job. Like one email that like isn't perfectly formatted isn't gonna like scare them away. They probably send like LOL in an email and like short like
At times.
yeah, like there's like
LOL.
it's not like just because it's like the main focus of your day and your moment like doesn't mean it's the main focus of whoever you're sending it to. So like the email doesn't have to be perfect is the point of that. So I emailed, and then this happened, and here we are, and I'm producing, and I have podcasts that I can add to my portfolio. I have Instagram reels, and I think where that overlaps with the goals of the show is that I want my work to be as best as possible, so I want the show to be as best as possible, so we can talk like kind of like Natalea thought, like growing. I want the show to grow so that the show can grow and it can be, I can leave it something better for when I graduate, but also so I could say that like I was part of a team that helped grow a show from like 0 followers and 0 listeners to so-and-so.
And that's crazy to think about, that we're starting off from ground zero. We're just going with the wind.
I know,
right?
we're all on this
With the
journey
windy
together. Like you guys are
wind.
interviewing me, but like we're all in this together. Like
We
this,
are.
like
all in this together.
literally, we're wearing our Wildcats colors.
Literally, I was about to say that
Aren't they
before
white and red? Aren't
yeah,
they?
before
Yeah.
we let you go, we're all wearing red.
We're all wearing matching colors,
wasn't good.
unintentionally
Yeah,
twinning.
I was gonna wear green, but I thought, I was literally thinking, I was like, I'm gonna wear my green, whatever flannel, and then I was like, wait a minute. The logo is already green, so when I'm on the thumbnail, it's just gonna look like bland. So I figured red is different. So
It's just how your brain works.
yeah, maybe it's weird, but it's fine.
Well, Natalie,
I'm
do you have
fine.
anything else for our dear Nick?
I think that's it. I would just like to say, I think as a collective goal for this podcast, as we kind of agreed on, is to grow together, learn together, and just keep getting better every day. That's pretty much the goal. That's our goal.
I would say that's my goal too. Is I mentioned this in the first episode. I don't do these types of things. I'm an introvert, and doing this kind of thing really brings me out of my comfort zone. And I don't know if y'all have recognized this. Maybe I should say Yin since I'm in Pittsburgh, right? Yeah. I don't know if Yin has recognized this, but I'm getting more comfortable with this podcast, the conversation setting with you. Nick, already know you, but like having you on has brought on that comfort setting. And that's just one of my personal goals for this podcast. Yeah,
that's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Nick.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. Then I'll move over to the other side.
Yeah.
He's our behind the scenes guy.
Yeah.
He's doing everything today.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Nick, for being part of this episode. You provided a lot of great insight to our students about goal setting and kind of how they can use that information moving forward. If you have any questions or anything you want to contribute to the show or the next episode, feel free to email us at careerdev@pointpark.edu. That is CAREERDEV @pointpark.edu. So, Natalea, in tradition, like we've been doing, we got to leave our viewers with some tips, right?
TIPS.
And with our next episode, kind of being about, personal branding, professionalism, kind of, being mindful of what you put on social media.
This is one of my favorite topics, actually. I love talking about personal branding.
Personal branding, yes. I think, leaving some tips to our viewers about how they portray themselves on social media or what to do and what not to do would be great. Don't you think?
I think that would be amazing.
So this first article it's like an opinion piece, and her name is Sydney Snow, a college student's advice to high schoolers about social media, but this can be college to college, anything. So her first tip of advice is just think about your image and think about what you're posting on social media.
Yeah, this is a huge one. I've been doing this since for years. I knew that I wanted to, be, I guess, on camera in some sort of way. I was probably going to be in the public eye. Yeah. So I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind, like make sure that what I'm posting is I'm going to be okay with it in 5 years.
Yeah, especially if you have family. You want to, be mindful of that. But also, like you said, you're about to graduate. Our producer, Nick, who was just on, he's about to graduate. So I'm sure you and Nick are thinking about, okay, how can my social media best reflect me?
Yep.
Especially if an employer is going to look at that.
Oh, they're going to look. Just know, your future employer is going to look at your Instagram. They're going to look at what you're posting online because you are a reflection of them. So just be 100% they look.
So kind of going off that, speaking to college students, there might be some freshmen, sophomores, any type of college student listening, and parents. Another thing they say is don't really, post content, with bad stuff, whether that be alcohol, drugs. Like you want to be mindful of that because especially in the profession that you're in, be mindful. It might just be a quick picture that you have, picture or something that you have in your hand. Just be mindful of that. Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can't control someone taking a picture of you or you being in the back of something. That's probably like that's out of your control. But if you're like obviously like posting something with like a drink in your hand on your Snapchat story, everyone can see that and people can either screenshot it or take a picture of the device. So you definitely want to be aware of kind of where you're at and who you're interacting with. Yeah, and kind of going off that, they also say don't forget that social media is public. Even if it's private, it is public and it is there forever. There forever. So something that you post, it's never going away. One thing I think that students or anybody who has social media doesn't really think about is be intentional about who you follow, but also be mindful of that because who you follow is kind of a direct reflection of who you are as a person possibly. And employers might go through your followers and see who you follow. And if they see something that doesn't really align with their branding or their views or beliefs, they might see that as something negative. Yeah, they might say like, okay, well, we don't know. Like just because you're not posting that content doesn't mean like you're not following that certain content. That's kind of not what they had in store for a future employee. Yeah, and we'll leave this last tip for you guys. Even though I want to say, college students are, responsible, they think about things. Just protect yourself on social media because there's some things that are posted that you might not even realize, whether that's, a CCV number on your credit card that you didn't recognize was visible or
the number of your address that's visible in a picture. You just don't know what's visible on social media or the pictures that are being taken of you, or just any content in general. So just protect yourself the best way that you can.
As much as you can, be aware of your surroundings, and remember, you only can control what you can control in yourself.
Yes, I agree. Well, I believe that ends episode 3, goal setting. Be sure to come back next week when we talk about personal branding, social media, all that fun stuff, and professionalism. If you'd like to find us on other streaming platforms, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or whatever your preferred streaming platform is. But until then, we will see you next time. Yes, we got that right. Woo!